Hi, my name is Chris. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing Leetcode number 6, zigzag conversion. This is considered medium difficulty. Alright, so this says the string PayPal is hiring is written in a zigzag pattern in a given number of rows like this. You may want to display this pattern in a fixed font for better legibility. Alright, so what we're trying to do here, we'll go here, and then the read line by line gives you this string here. So basically what we're trying to do is turn this string into this string, and the pattern is this. So if we have the number 3 rows, we've got 3 rows here. So we start with the first letter, it's up here, and then it goes down like this, and then diagonal, and then down, then diagonal, then down, then diagonal. So if you read it that way, it says PayPal is hiring, right? And so that's the example 1 there. Example 2 shows the same thing with number of rows being 4. So you have the same result. Goes down 4 rows, then diagonal like that, then down 4 rows, and diagonal like that, and then down, right? Until you get to the end of the string. Example 3 is saying input S is A, number of rows is 1. Your output's just going to be A, right? All right, so we're going to grab this example here, and I'm going to go over to CodePen. Whoop. That's the solution. I didn't want that. We'll start fresh. All right, I always like to solve my algorithms in CodePen so I can see the code, you know, what the code is doing as I go along. So let's paste in the 2 variables. Const S equals PayPal is hiring, and then number of rows is 3. Create our function. We're just going to call it func. Whoop. Sorry about that. And then for now, we're just going to return S. And then we log into the console to see what we're doing. Sorry, I can't type today. Alright, so now we should see S in the console. Beautiful. Okay, so the way that I approach this is we could think about this in terms of arrays, right? So since our number would be 3, we could create an array with 3 empty arrays in it. And then we loop through the string, and we're going to include some logic that will put the first letter in the first array, second in the second, third in the third, and then the next letter in the second, next letter in the first, and then the next letter in the second, next letter in the third, so on and so forth till we get to the end of the string. Now, the one thing we want to look out for, and we're going to take care of right away, is this edge case where you have only 1 row, because our logic is not going to work for that edge case. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say if num rows equals 1, we're just going to return S, right? Because if we only have 1 row, everything's going to be getting put in the first row, and yeah, so that'll just take care of that. And so let's make sure that's working. So let's change that to 1. There you go. Okay, so let's switch that back to 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an array, an empty array. Just call it array. And then we need a variable to specify which row we want to put each letter in. And then as we loop through the string, through S, we're going to change that variable, right? So we start at, we're going to call it count. So we're going to say count equals 0, right? And then as we loop through the array, let's come up here. For our first letter, it's going to be 0, and then we're going to increment it to 1 so that when we get to the next letter, it's going to put it in an array at the index of 1, and then we're going to increment it again so that the count is 2, and that will put the next letter in the count with the index 2. And once we get to 2, we're going to decrement the count back to 1. So the letter goes into 1, and then back to 0, goes there, and then we're going to increment, right? So it follows that pattern. All right, so how do we go about doing this? So I'm going to create a variable. I'll put it, or actually, before we do that, we need to create 3 empty arrays in array, right? So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to say I'm going to use a for loop, let I equal 0, and then if I is less than num rows, in this case 3, we're going to say I plus plus. So let's console.log I. So we should be seeing 0, 1, 2. And we are. Very good. And then inside here, we're going to say array.push. And then inside that, we're just going to put an empty array. And so now, if we return array, we should see an array with 3 empty arrays. Beautiful. All right, next thing we need to do is we're going to create a variable, and we're going to call it operation. Let operation, and we're going to start off by calling this add, right? And so this is going to, instruct our code as to whether we are adding to the count or whether we are subtracting the count when we come back up diagonally, right? So when we come down this way, we need to add to the count. Then when we get to here, we need to start subtracting from the count, and then go back to adding, then subtracting, adding, subtracting, adding, right? So that's what that is representing. Then finally, we need another for loop, and we're going to let I equal 0, and if I is less than s.length, so now we're looping through the string, I'm going to say I plus plus. Okay. And so what we're going to do here, this first thing we want to do is we want to push a letter into our array here, and we want to push it to the correct array, right? So this first letter should go here, next should go there, next should go there, next should go there, next should go there, right? So on and so forth. So first thing we do is we say array at count, so currently 0, so that's the very first array. We're going to push S into I, right? So since we're not changing the count at all at this point, everything's just going into the array at index 0, right? And I'm actually, it's going to create some funny behavior. I need to comment that out for a second here. So, we're going to say if operation equals add, where we're going to do the count is we're going to say count plus plus. If it doesn't, we're going to say count minus minus. So if this operation variable is add, we're going to add to the count. If it's not, we're going to add 1 to the count. If it's not, we're going to subtract 1 from count. Then finally, down here, we're going to do an if-else-if statement. So, let me think here. So, if count equals num rows minus 1, we're going to change the operation variable to subtract. And then we're going to say else if count equals 0, we're going to change the operation back to add. All right. So what's happening here? So basically, in this situation, our num rows is 3. So we're saying if count equals num rows minus 1. So if count equals 2, we change the operation to subtract. If count equals 0, we're going to change the operation to add. Okay, and so what that's doing is, so if count is 0, we're adding to here. If count is 1, we're adding to here. At count is 0, we're adding to here, and then we're going to increment count by 1. If count is 1, we're adding to this array, and then we're going to increment count one more time, and it's going to be 2, and then the next letter is going to go here. Now, since count equals 2, now we need to subtract. So we change that variable to subtract, and then it's going to go count minus minus, so it's going to go down to 2. And then count minus minus again, it's going to, I'm sorry, just going to go down to 1, and then count minus minus again, it's going to go down to 0. And then since we're at 0, we're going to increment the count. And so it's just going to repeat the pattern. So now we should see our array with 3 arrays in it with everything organized correctly. Let's check that. And there we go. Right? I should have pasted this in there. Right? This is what we're trying to get here. Right? That's our answer. Okay. So you see this pond, right? Whatever, you know. We can see that everything's in order, right? And so the final step that we need to do is we need to put all these into one array, right? And then convert it into a string. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use the flat method, right? So now we should see it all in one array. Perfect. And then the last step is we just join it, and we should have the correct result. Looks right to me. Cool. All right, so let's copy all of this, come back into Leetcode, and now we're going to paste it in. Now let's run the code. Cool, passed. Now let's submit the code. And we're all good. Not a bad runtime, 5 milliseconds. We beat 68% of people out there. Very good. All right, well, thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to see more like this, please like and subscribe my channel, and enjoy the rest of your day.